There's a rumour going around that Prince Harry is going to be deported by President Donald Trump using a presidential order. I am here with my good friend, DC lawyer John Witherspoon, to explain more. Hey up everyone, it's me, Stef the Alternate, your nerdy alternative, and welcome to the Dose of the Daily Nerd, where I break down the royal news and gossip of the day that's pretty much caught me eye. And oh my goodness, yeah, let's jump into it with my good friend DC lawyer John Witherspoon. Thank you so much for joining me on today's video because, yeah, ever since Donald Trump was announced as winner of the US presidential elections, there's been a lot of talk going around that, my goodness, Prince Harry could actually now be deported from America if there was any sniff of impropriety or illegality when it comes to his whole visa application and the visa process. And so, yes, a lot of people are now asking, hang on a minute, Prince Harry, could he actually be deported by Donald Trump using a presidential order or using any special powers that a president has in this particular case? And so, as I have explained, and as many other Megxit channels on this platform have explained and shown to you, Donald Trump is not the biggest fan of Harry and Meghan. He has, over the years, really displayed his disgust and essentially saying he's not the biggest fan of Harry and Meghan, going so far to say only earlier on this year that he would not protect Harry, as the Biden administration has done through this whole visa case. And in another interview that I showed you in one of my videos yesterday, when asked outright if the American people have a right to know exactly what happened with Prince Harry's visa application, he said yes. And so now this question is being asked, and everyone is essentially, opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever in on this one. Could Prince Harry be deported by Trump using a presidential order or any special powers that a president has whilst in office? So I thought I'd bring DC lawyer John Witherspoon on because, you know, he has his ear to the ground. He's literally on the ground right there. So yeah, John, what have you been hearing about this? Is it at all possible? What's your opinion?
Well, Steph, thanks for having me, first of all. I do think that there's probably more reason for Harry to be worried now that Trump is going to be back than there would have been had Kamala Harris been elected president. I tend to think, however, that things will not unfold in the way that people have suggested with, presidential order or some sort of direct influence on Prince Harry's visa file. The reason I say that is because I think that would be a little bit unseemly. Trump is going to be the president of the United States. He has some very, very big issues that he's going to have to deal with. And for him to get involved with somebody like Prince Harry and take a personal involvement in Prince Harry's visa file would be a little bit beneath him and a little bit unseemly. Now, don't get me wrong. Prince Harry has done a lot of things and has said a lot of things that have made him an easy target to attack. He is, after all, a guest in the United States. That's something that's very important to keep in mind. He has not at all times been the most polite guest or the best behaved guest. And then when I say that, I'm thinking about things like him talking about his view that the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is bonkers. That is not the kind of thing that you say in another country to endear yourselves to the people or to the leaders of that particular country. I think the way the situation is likely to play out is, number one, Trump will just let the pending visa court case, the Freedom of Information Act case filed by the Heritage Foundation, play itself out. As you might recall, we're at a stage right now where Heritage Foundation received an unfavorable ruling from Judge Nichols. They used what's called Rule 59E to go back to the judge and say, hey, are you really sure you want to do this? We think you've made a mistake. He has not ruled on that motion for reconsideration of his initial judgment in the case. But if he decides, hey, you know what, I've made a mistake, I'm going to release the file, then okay, at that point, end of story, the file gets released. Unless, of course, the US government would decide to appeal. The other thing that might happen is that it might go up to an appellate court because of one side or the other being unhappy. And again, there could be a decision to keep the file sealed, or there could be a decision to release the information. And then, of course, the other thing that might happen would be that the Heritage Foundation might just wait until the Trump administration takes office in January. They might file an additional Freedom of Information Act request, at which point the Department of Homeland Security and the State Department and the other relevant agencies would be under new leadership. And they might not, and I would think they would tend to be less likely to put their thumb on the scale and say, well, we want to kind of take this slowly and make sure we examine everything and make sure all the privacy requirements are being met and so forth. They might just say, look, we agree with Heritage Foundation that this should be a case that is made public. And at that point, then there probably would be additional litigation. The bottom line of all this, though, and part of the reason that the situation is not a happy one for Harry, is that just like you and I are doing today, Steph, people are talking about this all of a sudden all over again. There's articles in the newspaper. YouTubers are talking about it in the Megxit community, and it has come up to the surface all over again. If I were Prince Harry, I would be pretty sick and tired of hearing about this and having it be forefront in the news coverage of what I'm up to and what's going on in my life. So again, the bottom line to me is that this is just another pain in the neck for Harry that he's going to have to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose if, and I'm just really speculating here, if Harry had a choice to be able to vote between Trump and Kamala Harris, I'm sure for an easier life, let's say, he would certainly choose Kamala Harris. Now, we've got a comment here from Nile Gardiner, director of the Heritage Foundation's Margaret Thatcher Centre for Freedom. And now he says that he believes there's now a strong possibility that the Heritage Foundation will be able to successfully appeal the decision now that Trump is going to be the next president. Is that really true? Because Trump's going to be president now, the judge is going to just, change his opinion. The whole judicial court's going to change their opinion and allow the appeal to be successful because Trump is now president?
No. And I think that's a very important distinction to make. The Trump administration is not going to have any sway, as far as I'm concerned, in the case that's pending right now in front of Judge Nichols. That would be, I think, very inappropriate because it's a separate branch of the US government. Again, you have the legislative, the judicial, and the executive branch. Trump is in the executive branch. The court where Judge Nichols is in the judicial branch. And so there should not be any influence that is brought to bear back and forth over the line between the separation of powers in the different sides of the different branches of government. But as I mentioned a second ago, if the case would somehow come to an end and Heritage Foundation wanted to refile a Freedom of Information Act request, that would be something that would potentially be subject to influence from the Trump administration, again, because there would be a new Secretary of Homeland Security, a new Secretary of State, new senior people in both of those departments, both of those agencies, and so it would be sort of a fresh start for the situation. And by the way, I think it's important to keep in mind as well, this is not a case specifically about Prince Harry. It is a case that is designed to take a look at the functioning of the United States government. That's really the purpose of the Freedom of Information Act, is for people to say, I would like to know, subject to limits of national security or international affairs or some other constraint, I would like to know what's going on in my government. That is a right that people have as American citizens. and that is a right that institutions like the Heritage Foundation have. So it's not specifically about Prince Harry in the sense that it's about the functioning of the United States government. It is about Prince Harry because he's a very convenient test case for Heritage Foundation to come along and say, we think there might be something nefarious or inappropriate going on here in the handling of visa applications for people to come from abroad into the United States. So that's really the angle that involves Prince Harry. He's sort of a convenient peripheral accessory to this overall interest that Heritage has in figuring out whether the system is working the way it's supposed to.
Mm. Well, guys, with that being said, if you appreciated what John said, and I say, of course you did, guys, then if you have an Instagram account, do follow him at WitherspoonDC. If you've got any questions whatsoever, this is the place that you're able to contact him at. Please bear in mind, he may not be able to answer all your questions, but it's a way to contact him nonetheless. And if you appreciated this video, and I'd say, of course you did, then please do make sure you subscribe to join this Alter Nerd tribe. Just to give you a little bit of a side note, we are currently undergoing a little bit of a YouTube purge at the moment. What does that mean? It means that YouTube likes to unsubscribe you from channels without your permission and without your knowledge. So please do make sure you still subscribe to this channel. And if not, please subscribe today so we can stick 2 fingers up at YouTube and say, not today, Satan. Again, many thanks to my friend here, John Witherspoon, for joining me on this video. I appreciate your face, mate. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that tuned into this video. Appreciate you all. Until the next time, you guys. Laters.